Public Q&A presents AskReddit question. Which fictional character would still be alive if other characters had used a bit of common sense? A ton of characters in Harry Potter if the Ministry of Magic believed that Voldemort had returned. The face of the minister when he saw Voldemort leaving at the end of Order of Phoenix was a mix of he's really back and I fucked up big time. Marvin from Pulp Fiction. Poor guy. Who swings a gun around like that without a safety on? Vincent because he was a sloppy idiot. Vincent also died because he was a sloppy idiot. Edit. Yes, I was and am aware he was on heroin. Still a dummy. I need to take a shit, better leave my gun outside. The MAC-10 was Marcellus's. He didn't take it with him because it was too big for his shoulder holster. Aw man, I shot Marvin in the face. Why the fuck you do dat? Jaws, the mayor who thought it would be a good idea to keep the beaches open despite grave warnings from a shark scientist and the police chief. Edit. It has one of my favorite lines from the mayor at this point. Hooper goes on explaining the power and the size of the shark we are dealing with, stating how the graffiti on the town billboard is proportionally accurate. The mayor responds, "Love to prove that, wouldn't ya? Get your name into the National Geographic." Good thing such a scenario would never happen in real life. See what happens when politicians don't listen to their scientists. I saw Skyfall the other day. Don't keep the cyber-terrorist in a cell completely controlled by computers for some reason, and then plug his computer into that system, and allow it to run executables. And don't have a very convenient escape route very close to his cell. I enjoyed Skyfall, and I think it is a gorgeous movie. The plot is insanely stupid at every turn. After the escape, their plan to defeat Silva is to use an untraceable vehicle to leave London so he can't follow them, and then use a computer to create a false trail to where they are actually going. They want to lure Silva to Bond's Scottish mansion in the middle of nowhere to kill him. Do they coordinate with Mi-6 to send an assassin team? Do they send Scotland Yard? The SAS? No, they decide that Bond can probably handle it with whatever old hunting weapons might still be lying around the mansion. And in the end, the bad guy succeeds in his plan to kill M and end his own life, but somehow Bond and Mi-6 consider this a bittersweet victory. You failed completely. Love this plot hole. Let's go ahead and not air-gap our systems from each other because /or. They literally did the drop a flash drive in the parking lot and hope some moron plugs it in. Everyone in Evil Dead if people would stop reading ominous Latin. Hey look. I found this really creepy old book bound in human skin, written in blood, and full of obviously evil demonic shit. I should read aloud from it. Honestly, I might have done it too. How were they supposed to know they were in a horror movie? Pretty much everybody from Jurassic Park 2. InGen set up a defensible position after capturing a bunch of herbivores to bring back for a park in San Diego. Then Nick Vince Vaughn breaks out all the dinosaurs which proceed to rampage through the camp destroying the perimeter walls. Since he's been sniffing glue since kindergarten, Nick decides it would be a fantastic idea to bring an injured baby T-Rex back to his team. This predictably draws in the parents which eat Eddie. After being rescued by the InGen team, who he just screwed over and endangered, Nick sabotages the bullets in the elephant gun the lead InGen contractor carries. You know, the one weapon they have against the T-Rexes whose fury Nick brought down on them. When the hunter has the T-Rex in his sights, he is unable to put the animal down and save everyone. This leads to a few of them getting eaten, and the rest running right into raptor territory, and mostly getting picked off. After losing all of the plant-eating dinosaurs and already having a tranquilized T-Rex sitting there, the only way for InGen to recoup their losses for the trip is to bring the Rex back instead. which kicks off the disaster in San Diego. The movie talks about Nick being in a fringe movement of Greenpeace. Apparently, he's supposed to be a fanatical animal rights activist. Based on his decisions, I think he's more of suicidally stupid crusader against human lives. But really the master stroke of idiocy, the magnum opus of moronic ineptitude, is performed by Sarah Julianne Moore. This experienced field researcher travels to a dangerous island alone, and without means of communication, endangering herself and the rescue team. She gets close enough to touch the dinosaurs, all while chastising the others and saying they can't disrupt so much as a blade of grass. All of that is bad enough, but then she performs surgery on the baby T-Rex that numbskull Nick brought to the camp. Then this expert in her field travels across the island in a vest covered in the baby T-Rex's blood, despite 1 knowing the T-Rex's track by scent, 2 seeing the T-Rexes act vindictive when it comes to their child, 3 and having the goddamn blood pointed out to her by Injun's big game hunter. She still wears the vest and leads the T-Rex to the survivors. She only realizes her mistake when the Rex is poking its head into her tent. Too stupid to live is a well-known movie trope. Somehow these characters surpass that label, and are too stupid for anyone else to survive their idiocy. My man Eddie had it rough, saves everyone's ass and gets ripped in half by 2 T-Rexes, and no one even acknowledged his death except one line from Goldblum. They don't deserve my man Eddie. I always thought his death was unnecessarily cruel. He got it worse than any of the main bad guys. Same with the babysitter in Jurassic World. You would have thought she had killed the kids with the torture porn they put her through. Meanwhile, the main villain gets killed off-screen by raptors. Been years since I have seen it, but from what I remember, the hunters Roland and Ajay were about the only non-idiots in the whole movie. Everything that went wrong around them were because of everyone else's stupidity. And Ian, all he wanted to do was call the damn boat LOL. I love how his character is in the film. It was pitch perfect. The only one who seems to appreciate the hideous danger they're in, through experience. Oh yeah. Oh that's how it always starts. Then later there's running and screaming. And that bit in the high hide, when his daughter is panicking having heard Ian tell all of those horror stories over the years. And Ian is stoically trying to reassure her that they're in a completely different situation. Only to hear the bone-chilling roar of something he knows very, very well. Telling them all that they're not. Ian was so great in the movie. My favorite line though is when they're calling for Sarah, and he goes, "How many Sarahs you think are on this island?" I haven't seen the film in ages, but I just read the book. In the book there's a guy eating candy bars in a tree, and dropping the wrappers to the ground. Naturally a raptor later eats a dude who happens to have that exact same candy bar in his pockets. Turns out that raptor really likes chocolate. Wonder what happens when that raptor comes across those candy wrappers. King Kong. In retrospect, maybe New York City wasn't the smartest place to bring a gigantic gorilla. He would have fitted in perfectly in Florida. Would they even have noticed him in Australia? I mean, they already have giant everything else. Just throw him into the Sydney Opera House and feed him. Mike from Breaking Bad. Oops, just realized I could have got the names from Lydia. Sorry for killing you, dude. Shut the fuck up and let me die in peace. I really loved Mike. Banks killed the role. Also, shooting him wouldn't have made him give up the names anyways. It was all just pointless rage, basically what Walter had become. He was angry because Mike was right, and that he could never be Mike. Unfortunately, Mike's big mistake was telling that to Walt. It was pretty much the only time Mike got caught up in his pride. As we all know, Walter just became parts of all the other villains of the show. Even going as far as to pick up their physical quirks here and there. It's why he killed Gus. It's why he killed Mike. It's why he did most of what he did. He wanted to be the most notorious name in the world. Nah, I am going to go ahead and up the scale there. Literally everyone that dies after Gus dies wouldn't have had to die if Gus had taken a minute and realized that Walt was just protecting Jesse, and not tried to kill him. Then pretty much everyone would still be alive. Seriously. All the characters are pissed at Walt for blowing up Gus's operation. Brew, you guys literally tried to kill him. Gun to his head, backed him into a corner, only his cooking skills keeping him alive after Jesse killed Gabe, but for how long? Of course Walt was going to blow shit up. Wicked Witch of the West. Remember how Superman lives in a house where kryptonite is kept lying around in plain reach of visitors? I can't remember, but it seemed like the witch was just as surprised as everyone else. It also implies that even though she surrounded herself with stank as flying monkeys, she has never showered in her life. She probably smelled absolutely awful. In the book by Gregory Maguire, it's explained that she has a lifelong aversion to water and cleans herself with scented oils and scrubs and whatnot instead. Twist. That's the only reason society rejected her, and she became a witch. This question's practically written for the friends of Derek Zoolander. I am sad now. Anyone want to get me a orange mocha frappuccino? Holy God. I had completely forgotten about this scene. That is hilarious. It's not like nobody else has lost their friends in a random gasoline fight. Just because we have chiseled ABS and stunning features, it doesn't mean that we, too, can't not die in a freak gasoline fight accident. The entire crew of the Prometheus had two fucking idiots stranded underground during a storm decided it wasn't a good idea to fuck with a completely unknown alien species. Also, the Nostromo crew really should have done a second scan before letting the guy who just got face raped walk around the ship. To be fair to the Nostromo crew, Ash had explicit company orders to bring back the alien, and the crew was expendable. The android was the medical specialist on that crew, and the crew had no reason to distrust him until later. One of those idiots was literally the guy who mapped the tunnels. My entire D&D party, sorry guys. Every D&D party, if we're being honest. Last one I was in, the monk tried to slam dunk a flame skull into a 200-foot deep pit of undead. We just kind of paused the session there and haven't gone back yet. It's like we crashed the DM. Hank would still be alive if Walter White didn't keep books in a bathroom. Or continue making drugs after getting offer for $5 million. That's not how you build an empire business. He done broke bad. The first off the top of my head is Hedwig of the Harry Potter books. Why have 7 Harry Potters in the chase screen when Hedwig died? Give the polyjuice to Harry, make him look like anyone else. Perhaps a muggle that happened by. Use a muggle car instead of brooms. Really grab any muggle technology like a walkie-talkie. Hermione and Harry grew up in the muggle world. Sure, there's some excuses for not using muggle tech in Hogwarts or other strong magical locations. But they could use it elsewhere. At the very least, have the luggage sent another way. Another idea: summon the Hogwarts house elves to get the luggage and cast distraction spells. I don't know if a house elf could have teleported Harry. Edited for clarity and correction. Yeah, common sense is really rare in the magic world. Hiding in plain sight. There are maybe a fey tens of thousands magicians living, so why bother to hide in the overwhelmingly percentage of muggles? I heard someone argue that magic actually holds the wizarding world back because they use it as a crutch that blinds them to the actually useful things of the muggle world. Harry, put on your invisibility cloak and walk to the following address, where we have an undercover agent waiting to pick you up in an inconspicuous muggle car. And we did that thing that Hermione does with her handbag, so all your shit can be carried in your pocket. All of Jason Voorhees' victims from Part 6 and onward would still be alive if Tommy Jarvis didn't angrily stab Jason's corpse with the gate spike that conducted lightning and resurrected him. Should have just tempered yourself and only burned him, Tommy. Watched that movie lately? Such a dumb thing to do, but great way of resurrecting a legendary character. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll stab all the corpses I want, damn it, they're not supposed to be resurrected by lightning. That franchise wasn't about science fiction before. Apollo Creed. How the living fuck did Rocky not throw in the towel? And afterwards, he made it so the doctors couldn't get to him because he was holding him for so damn long. Beck in Netflix's You. Hell, if she alone had more common sense, she'd still be alive. No, make sure he's fucking dead. And get some bloody curtains for your road-facing, first-floor apartment while you're at it. That scene drove me crazy in the first episode. I was about to start victim blaming. Right? You finally got out and got a weapon and the upper hand. Keep freaking hitting him. Candace too. Sure, love killing her was out of the blue, but even before that she wasn't very careful. She seemed way too casual. Not doing her research, not calling the cops, not having any backup. Her death felt kind of cheap, but also completely unexpected based on love killing her, instead of Joe. She was shown to be the huntress to the master hunter in Joe, but at some point got tunnel vision, which actually kind of makes sense because she was so preoccupied with Joe that she didn't even consider the threat of love. Candace was way too confident that she would win. This guy is straight up insane, and you know the things he's gotten away with, but you're just going to hang out with his friends, break into his apartment, locate his glass case of murder, all while antagonizing him. I am sure that will turn out fine. And she was safe because he thought she was dead. Even after he knew she was alive, she could have gone back to her normal life because he was the one constantly having to look over his shoulder under a fake name on the other side of the country. All of the deaths in Jurassic World stem from one scene, when no one was using common sense. We can't get a visual on the creature, it must have escaped its enclosure. I'll go in to investigate. Wait, before you enter a death trap with a genetically modified killing machine, or abomination, why don't we turn on the tracking device to see where it is? Oh yeah. It would have been pretty stupid to have rushed in when you were literally about to activate its chip. Ha, it's still there. Oh, now I see it, looks like it can camouflage. Good thing we didn't release it to go on a killing spree in the park. Now go spend some time with your nephews like you promised, you insensitive bitch. Should we go check via the maintenance entrance or just open that big-ass door? I believe they went in through a small man-sized door, and then when trying to escape the worker opened the bigger door. You definitely should not be able to open that door without like two people inserting a key and turning, nuclear missile style. Turns out they actually did spare some expense. Lesson of the first movie. Don't mistreat your IT department. Wasn't just the IT department. Hammond and the others behind Jurassic Park fucked up a lot of things, because they continually made dumb choices. The Triceratops stegosaurs in the book were getting sick every few weeks because of poisonous plants in their habitats chosen because they looked good. The animals weren't eating from the plants themselves, but were ingesting berries from the plants every few weeks when they would swallow new gizzard stones. IIRC, lots of the security systems didn't run off of auxiliary power, particularly the fences. They didn't properly research amphibian DNA before using it to fill in the holes from the degraded dino DNA. Otherwise they would have figured out that it let the dinos change sex in certain circumstances, the way frogs could, etc. A common theme is John Hammond talking about how he spared no expense. He very much spared many expenses, but he never spared a single expense on visual effects. His character is the epitome of all pomp and no substance. His whole flea circus monologue was meant to highlight just that. Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, when have teenagers with a boner ever done anything with common sense though? Not them, everyone around them. If they'd just let them make out a bit, and then actually had to have a conversation with each other instead of making eyes and thinking about naked activities, it would have sorted itself out. This is what people miss when they say R and J are just teenage morons. That's not the point. Teenagers are supposed to be morons. The problem is, all the adults around them, from their families to their nurses to the apothecary selling them poison, are being even more childish. That's the real tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. And if they had just thought, wait, we hate each other, but with a political alliance through marriage, how fucking powerful would we be in this city? Everyone would have been happy. Which is exactly what the priest that married them in a secret was thinking. But marrying them in secret kind of defeats the whole point. If the priest had tried to marry them in public, then he would have been stopped. If he married them in secret, waited for the consummation to prevent annulment, and then announced the situation, the families would be faced with a fait accompli. They're silly teenagers and they'll grow out of it, would have also served. Juliet is what, 13? Edit. I am not saying all teenagers are silly, but these two sure as shit are. 13, and was supposed to turn 14 on the day of her and Paris wedding. Or also, Romeo needs to get out more, let's send him at the University of Paris to study, grow up a little, make new friends and meet new girls, preferably older than 13. All of RDR2's cast would live to the first game if Dutch would understand that a guy you've had for 6 months is less trustworthy than the man you've raised for 20 years. Edit, just to clear it up, Micah not being trusted would prevent the Blackwater incident, so the gang wouldn't need to flee. If they didn't flee, Strauss never lends money, therefore, Arthur wouldn't contract TB from the debtor. He's got a plan. You just got to have faith. Tahiti. At least they didn't kill Charles. What about Lenny? No. I am and will always be a big fan of the Dutch suffered serious brain trauma during the San Denis bank robbery or trolley car escape theory. Things start going immediately downhill from there. It also plays into the game's themes of poor decision-making. The bank robbery was rushed leads to destructive outcomes. Sirius Black. Come on, Dumbledore. Really? The gloom of Grimmauld Place parted, and a gleaming silver doe walked towards Sirius. Her beautiful head tilted, and her long starlight lashes fluttered. She opened her mouth, and the deep voice of Snape said, "Hey, fucker, are you still at your house?" This scene should have been in the books XD. This would have been if Stephen King had written them. Harry too. He literally gave you something to use in case you needed to contact him, and instead you decide to break into the Nazis' office, and then the Department of Fucking Mysteries where your friend's father was almost murdered a few months ago. This one I go with just because enough time has passed that I believe Harry genuinely forgets about the mirror, and it makes sense. It's something he never even unwraps, so it's an abstract concept to him rather than a concrete object, and then hides in the bottom of his trunk. I had also forgotten about it by the time I got to the end of the book, which was a few days later for me and several months for Harry. I actually think this is one of the few times in the books when Harry doesn't go barreling headlong into danger without thinking. He tries to make sure Sirius is okay. He tries to go to Dumbledore. He even tries to get a message to Snape, and although that works, he had every reason to believe it hadn't. Honestly, that's the part that really gets me on rereads. Harry manages to come up with he's got pad food in the place where it's hidden, and Snape can't manage to work the word mystery in when Umbridge asks him what it means. It adds to the tragedy of it all that the one time Harry really tried to plan, it all fell apart anyway. Forget Dumbledore. If either Fred or George had looked at the Marauders' map and noticed that their little freshman brother was spending his nights curled up with some dude named Peter Pettigrew, half the wizarding world would still be alive. If little Ronnie wants to snog a kid named Peter, who are Fred and George to judge? At least find out if it is a kid or a creepy old man, though. Besides, since when have Fred or George ever minded their own business? The one thing that kind of excuses this is that both said they knew the school so well that they didn't have to use the map anymore. Plus, Harry failed to notice this himself, and he was spending a lot more time using it than Fred and George probably were. Reminds me of this old meme. Quicksilver. He has been shown to be faster than bullets. Then get shot. WTF. Such a waste of a fantastic character. Iker, have you seen the OSP video on character deaths? I highly recommend. I remember in one of the Superman movies there is a tornado or storm, and while Clark and his mom get to safety, the dad is left behind like 200 feet away in the car. But shakes his head when Clark is about to save him, because that would expose his identity. There was total chaos right then with a huge tornado happening, and he could have picked him up in a second, and no one would be able to tell. Instead he just died for no reason. Absolutely. That was so freaking stupid. There were probably half a dozen ways he could have used his powers to save his father. Worst case he gets spotted and the family has to into witness protection or something. They wouldn't even need to explain it logically. There was a tornado and people are freaking out. Someone sees Clark saving his dad in some impossible way. It's okay. We were all stressed out and our minds act funny and see things. Maybe we wanted to see Clark run really fast to save his dad, but come on now. And you know what? Maybe he did run fast thanks to the wind from the tornado. We just imagined it to be a lot faster than it actually was. A major part of the Dothraki army. Sending them all straight ahead in pitch black was, a questionable decision. In the snow, no less. Because we all know how accustomed to fighting in the snow they are. And with weapons that wouldn't work against the whites, that was the original plan. They didn't know that Melisandre would come and light their Iraqs on fire. They put their infantry in front of the walls. They put their siege weapons in front of the infantry in front of the walls, where they will only get one shot off. Waste of time and resources. They sent their cavalry on a head-on charge into the darkness, which is the worst use of cavalry, hoping they would come in contact with the enemy and do something. They just lucked into using flaming swords last minute. They placed their infantry not only outside the walls but in front of the flaming ditch, making choke points that their own soldiers had to run through. List goes on in terms of stupid tactics. NK deserved to win. I am not exactly a stickler for realistic fantasy battles, but seriously. You don't need to have a degree in military history to point out the brain-dead tactics in that battle. I can understand the entire infantry in front of the walls as a delaying tactic, but as you point out, they should then be positioned behind not only the ditch but preferably also obstacles clad with dragonglass. Also, there does not seem to have been any reserve plan regarding the defense of Bran. Okay, so Theon defends him with a couple of Ironborn. When they know the NK is going that direction. Gods, that battle was stupid. That entire season was so stupid it is beyond belief. Apart from the battle that a 11-year-old with 2H in any strategic game could have won aside. The I killed my own king and betrayed my vows for the people character says that he never really cared for the people. Or the abolitionist queen going full Nazi on innocent people because of bells. Or the absolutely not human anymore cripple with seemingly zero connection to the real world becoming king. Or that Jon is still punished by his own siblings after the only people that cared for his death going away. Or the North becoming a different kingdom, as if the other kings wouldn't immediately do the same. You could have written a disappointing ending, or even ended on a low note like The Office after Michael left. But to so thoroughly assassinate so many plot lines and characters, it takes real talent. Or the absolutely not human anymore cripple with seemingly zero connection to the real world becoming king. What was really awful about that part was Tyrion's speech about how the people with the best stories deserve to be kings. A speech written by D&D, seeing that it was part of the atrocity that sank one of, if not the most profitable franchises of the TV world. One would ask them whether it was worth circle-jerking in front of millions of people about how important your job as a writer is. It's fine. They all RESP'd near their corpses once the battle was over. Then a warlock teleported the army to King's Landing. The entire Got fan base would still be alive if they used common sense on the last 2 seasons. I have never seen a fan base die so quickly. It went from a fan base to a hate base. Don't worry, they were all back in the last episode for some reason. Dany kind of forgot the army of ships she could see from her dragon up in the air. Sirius Black from Harry Potter. If Harry had actually listened to Hermione's warning that he was going into a trap, the whole battle at the Ministry wouldn't have ever happened. Maud Flanders if she had just waited in the aisle for the t-shirt shooting ladies to finish their halftime show. Or at least been more aware of what everyone in her section was looking at. Of course, if Homer hadn't ducked, I am sure he could have taken the direct hit from the shirt barrage and been fine thanks to his lower center of gravity. The question is, who the fuck installed bleachers without any back wall, or even a railing? There should not have been empty space there for her to fall down. The Jedi. If Anakin had some sense. Or if Yoda did. Or if they'd acted on any bit of the mountain of evidence they got something was up in the Clone Wars. They didn't start investigating the origins of the clones until 3 years into the war. Or if the 3 masters that had gone with Mace Windu didn't get their butts kicked in seconds. Seriously, how the hell did these guys even gain the rank of master? Nobody could possibly be prepared for an old man to screech like a banshee and spin jump at you like that. Pretty much everyone in Lottar if Elrond just shoved Isildur into the lava. They were the only 2 there, so no one would have known. Hey Elrond, we saw you and Isildur going towards the mountain, now here you are, but where's Isildur? It was so tragic, you guys, he slipped and fell into lava. There was nothing I could do to save him. He looked at me, said, we have to make sure. Goodbye, my friend. And jumped in. It was the most heroic thing I would ever seen in all my long years. May we never forget his name and his sacrifice. And as he was falling he said, Elrond, take care of my wife for me. And also you get to be king. Easily done. Have you seen all the smoke and lava in there? It's not good for my cough asthma. Plus there's loads of ashes, just went straight into his eyes. No wonder he couldn't see where he was going. Elrond seems pretty sus. A well-known, high-ranking elf murdering the High King of Gondor and Arnir, just after the men came to the elves' aid against Sauron. It would have sparked a massive war that likely could have meant the end of either of the races. On top of that, Elrond wouldn't have been able to. There is a reason that Mt Doom was undefended. Nobody could willingly destroy the ring in the fire, not even Elrond. The fact that it actually went in after the events of LOTR was pure luck edit. As someone else pointed out, it was direct intervention by Eru Elevator that Gollum didn't have very good footing. Edit. A lot of people are saying yeah, well, Elrond wouldn't have needed to touch it, he could have pushed him in, and are missing the point. It doesn't matter if Elrond touched it, he would have been unable to bring himself to destroy it. This is also the reason why having the eagles fly it in wouldn't have worked either. Nobody can bring themselves to destroy the ring. Your second paragraph is exactly correct. It took a literal act of God to destroy the ring. Quentin Coldwater from The Magicians. Don't just stand there, toss the bloody thing in, and get out. 299 people would still be alive in the John Wick universe if Iosif Tarasov didn't kill his puppy. The guy is a fucking legend, of course he is going to hunt you down for killing his puppy. Never piss off the boogeyman. My favorite scene from that movie, calling Leguizamo, asking I hear you hit my son. Why? Because he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog. Oh. Kills me every time, one of the best ways to establish gravitas. To me their ability to establish John Wick as a killing machine, without flashbacks or clumsy exposition, is one of the most masterful parts of the series. I am going inside. Well, it's time for my lunch break. Wick protecting the one guy he still has respect for even though that guy was working for his enemy. I really appreciate this comment. Heavy-handed exposition drives me crazy. Don't spell it out. Show it through how characters think, react and interact now. Check out John Wick 9 to 5. It's scenes from the movies with Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 playing. It somehow fits perfectly with the scenes. What kind of sicko makes us Google this on Saturday morning and doesn't post a link? Web address. That was perfect, BTW. Take my angry upvote. Not the boogeyman. The guy you send to kill the fucking boogeyman. Theon Greyjoy was never very smart. Bing bong from Inside Out. The characters literally pass a tube that could send any memory up to HQ. If that just used that tube, and then used the train of thought on the way back, everything would have gone perfectly. Or heck, if Joy could have just been patient and waited for Riley to wake up instead of jumping off the train to cause nightmares. Inside Out is cool because you can look at it as the characters actually having agency, or that the whole movie is the personification of Riley's depression. Everyone on the ship in Alien, if they would have listened to Ripley when she refused to allow the alien onto the ship. Yeah, but it was Ash the synthetic human who let the infected guy back on the ship, and it wasn't a lack of common sense that drove him, it was science or corporate or military greed. In some alternate universe the infected astronaut didn't get back on the ship, but then, who knows? Shmai Skywalker. After episode 1, the Queen of Naboo, who had the credits, could have bought her freedom and hired her to work for her either on an estate, and or give her job training and education to work elsewhere. Sidious, Jar Jar, the Jedi Council, Yoda, Obi-Wan could have done the same to gain influence or provide peace of mind to someone they have a vested interest in. Shmai had to remain a slave on Tatooine to justify a familial relation to justify Luke being there. In some parallel dimension, Star Wars was released in chronological order and made more sensible because of it. My headcanon is that even if they did buy Shmai and put her in a residency in downtown Coruscant, is there a downtown when it's all just town? Palpatine would have had her killed somehow in order to emotionally manipulate Anakin into becoming more unstable, or willing to join the dark side. Name me a Disney villain who died who wasn't cursed by their own hubris. Gaston could have gone back to his village if he had just headed the beast's orders to get the fuck out of the castle, but no, he had to be a petty asshole with a boner that only rose for Belle. I mean, shit, he could have had a fucking harem if he could have just accepted that Belle didn't want him and gone on with his life. Jafar couldn't just toss Aladdin a bag of gold coins and tell him to start a new life somewhere else. He had to be a backstabbing asshole. Scar could have gotten the fuck out of Pride Rock knowing Simba just kicked his ass, but no, he had to be petty and run his stupid mouth. Ursula. She could have gone and chilled in Triton's castle and enjoyed life, but no, she had to try to fuck up Ariel's life and turn into a giant, knowing full well Eric was wielding a goddamn ship with a pointy tip. Dr. Facilier could have kept a lid on his magic, but he let it control him instead. Turbo had to spend all his time picking on Vanellope instead of just enjoying being King Candy. No one knew Vanellope was a princess. Why should he be threatened by her? Jafar is the worst one out of all of them for this. The rest of them at least had some sort of personal vendetta, but Jafar really betrayed Aladdin for the hell of it, and it directly led to his downfall. If he had just given Aladdin some money, he would have got the genie and became powerful, but no. Light from Death Note. If Mikami hadn't used the Death Note to write Misora's name, Light would have won. Mikami was stupid to not listen to someone he considered God. Light pretty much started his own downfall when he thought he was going to kill L on live TV. Ended up just showing his power and location. If he's just resisted the temptation and laid low, he could have made his way to the top in a few short years. Instead, he made himself enemy one. Glenn from The Walking Dead. Ned Stark, Robb Stark. Every dead character in a horror movie ever. Hey guys, I have a great idea. Let's split up instead of staying together where we are safe. The horny kid dies. The slut girl dies. The one who believed in ghosts dies. The character who saved the one who was to be killed first dies. You just made me think of Cabin in the Woods. Modern masterpiece. Why do they always run upstairs and trap themselves? Or throw away a gun or weapon after using it once? Anya in Buffy. Just don't put her in the lead position of we have to kill someone off in the finale by positioning her character pointlessly in the way of the demon spillover coming into Sunnydale. All they had to do was move some of the potential slayers there to help her out. If Ned Stark had freaking told Bobby B that the fucked up Lannister runts were not his children, not trusted Peter Baelish, and went out to help Stannis, the War of the Five Kings might have been avoided a wee bit longer, until most major houses rose against the Lannisters. Even being the richest of the 7 continents would not have helped them. A lot of characters from the 100. Poor Wells and a lot of the Mount Weather people, and a lot of the people on the Ark, and a lot of Grounders, and a certain Grounder that was really likable, and a certain guy looking for his girlfriend who snapped and massacred a lot of civilians because some idiot gave him an assault rifle, and the idiots who killed the army that was there to protect them. Sigh. Oh, the 100. But in its defense, you can kind of understand why. These people grew up on a space station, not in massive forests. Trauma and stress activate their lizard brains a little too well. Man, the body count on that show is skyrocketing lately. The mice in Of Mice and Men. Or the rabbits. Or the puppies. Or Cully's wife. Half the characters in Infinity War, they literally had the gauntlet off, and then Star-Lord happened. If you had waited 20 more seconds, you could have used that on Thanos instead of the butt of your stupid gun. The heroes had a chance to stop Thanos from getting a stone, but refused out of principle. Cap didn't want to sacrifice Vision. Strange didn't want to destroy the Time Stone when Tony suggested it. Gamora gave up the location of the Soul Stone because Thanos was torturing Nebula. Loki gave up the Space Stone because Thanos was going to kill Thor. Meanwhile, Thanos gets what he wants precisely because he is willing to kill someone he cares for, in his own twisted way. It's a lesson the good guys learn in Endgame. They're more than willing to sacrifice themselves if that's what it takes. It was a selfish mentality in Infinity War. I don't want to sacrifice my friend, even though the alternative is sacrificing half of all living creatures that may also include my friend. Functionally yes, but I think it's just sticking to superhero mentality for better or worse. Self-sacrifice is okay, Sacrificing others always means theirs has to be a better way. The heroes had a chance to stop Thanos from getting a stone, but refused out of principle. Ironically, this probably actually led to a better future. Let's say they destroy one of the stones. Or even two of them. Thanos was single-handedly thrashing a sizable portion of Avengers. If he knows two stones are gone, it's likely he goes all in on a vendetta to destroy the Avengers before he continues culling worlds one at a time. They weren't able to stop him at all in Wakanda. And he didn't even have most of his army. I would also argue that Thanos was overconfident once he got the stones, and that's why Thor got the drop on him. Letting Thanos snap was the only reason that he ended up destroying the stones, which made the time heist mandatory, which allowed the Avengers to dust his entire army. Even though the endgame battle seemed to be going the Avengers' way, we have no idea how much of Thanos' army had been expended. And Thanos found a way to wriggle out of two losing bouts against Wanda and Captain Marvel. Wow! You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.